No worries, guys. Yeah, we oh, there we go. Just in time. Have you heard of load shedding in South Africa?
Oh, power?
Yeah, power goes off for
Oh, wow.
sometimes like 9 hours a day.
Wow.
Far
So
out. That's
that was my UPS kicking in. So at least my office keeps going and
oh,
the
okay.
Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's called load shedding. That's why all the lights went off.
Shred and gone. Oh yeah.
Everybody say surfing on Kamchatka. You're crazy.
I think it's any surfer's dream to score untouched, undiscovered waves.
So much potential and nobody explores the coastline.
It just looks insane, dude.
So hard and freezing, maybe minus 25.
Forecast is changing every second, but it's like 10 to 15 foot swell.
That says it's 6 meters. Offshore swell, we got a helicopter on call. Immigration guys took our passports.
What's the saying? It's not an adventure unless something goes wrong. We're in the midst of that. We're deep in it now.
That's like 1.5 meters of snow.
Getting all nervous about the weather.
Losing ways to communicate with people back home.
Credit cards don't work anymore. Any swell that hits this coastline while we're here, we need to go back to that wave.
Everybody survived.
Those finger, it's a less chance to go.
I did not think that I'd ever be the first one to surf a wave that no one's ever surfed before.
Spencer, Guy, so rad to have you on Shredding the North. Thanks for taking time out. 6 o'clock in Sydney, 9 a.m. here in South Africa. We've had Firing J Bay last week. It's so rad to connect to fellow surfers who've been surfing as young groms, had a love for the ocean from a young age, right? And then decided that you're gonna document this. I'm particularly interested in this latest film that you've been working on, that you're promoting at the moment, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's rewind a little bit. Hello, Spencer. Hello, Guy. Welcome.
Thanks for having us. We're in sync.
That was awesome.
No,
Yeah, there we go. So it's always good to have a little pre-run, I suppose. Yeah, guys. So let's rewind. You guys are from near Sydney, grew up there, surfing. Tell us about your youth.
Yeah, so me and Gaia both grew up in a place called Avalon Beach on Sydney's northern beaches in Australia. And we were just, little surf groms, just frothers. Every day we're at the beach, in the ocean. That was kind of our thing. And we had a big crew of mates, and we'd always steal mum and dad's kind of handy cam or camera and film each other surf, and you'd go and review it after at someone's house. And we were just, we had so much, kind of sparked a bit of love for creating and using a camera. And then, we could watch each other surf and try and improve.
So who would film who more? Would it be Guy doing more of the filming or Spencer?
We just take turns. Like, you'd probably surf for like 20 or 30 minutes each, and then tag team the other person on the beach. You'd grab your board, the other would grab the camera, and you just take turns. And I think like that was more of like an ego thing when you just wanted to watch yourself rather than like
exactly
the camera. But yeah, it was awesome. I think that started definitely our love for like creating stuff. And like Spenny, he was probably like 16 when he released like an hour-long kind of feature clip on Avalon, the surfers and bodyboarders. So that was kind of the start of your like doco filmmaking journey, which was cool. And then I kind of followed in Spen's footsteps. He's inspired me a lot. So yeah, it's been awesome. And like doing it with your best mate, it's been an incredible journey.
That's cool. So you guys have been friends since you were groms?
Yeah. When did we meet? Like 13?
Yeah, probably 12 or 13.
Met each other just through surfing, see each other in the water, just kind of cross paths, coming in and out of the water. And I was like, this guy looks pretty friendly. And now we've been best mates for, a long time now.
You say cross paths, but I've seen pictures of, is it Kira or is it Snapper, where it's like literally lots of paths crossing these days.
Thousands of people. It's not like that where we live. We're still lucky.
A bit more quiet.
Yeah.
All those beautiful relationships being formed by crossing paths down at that break, right?
Lots of party ways.
Yeah, it's a hot topic right now, this whole crowded situation. But anyway, that's cool, guys. It's lovely to hear stories where you've got friends that kind of go beyond just the teenage years. And then, as you say, Guy, you're inspired to sort of by Spencer to take this more seriously, although albeit that you're having fun all the way along. So what are your two roles here?
Yeah, so I kind of grew up obsessed with filming and video, and then it's kind of turned me into a path of being a director of photography or a cinematographer and a director some days. And and then Guy, you're more
do more stills. So I've always been into taking photos, and then Spenny kind of got onto the video journey before me, and he started doing it for work. And that like I said, that really inspired me, because I kind of like taking photos, but I was kind of scared to be like, I want to do this for a job. And then I saw Spenny start doing really well, and I was like, stuff it, I'm going to try and chase this thing. And he started towing me into jobs, and then it's just been like a really good working relationship, like with your best mate. But it's good when, you know, Spenny's doing video and I'm doing stills, because especially in the commercial world, like bounces off each other a lot. And then we just kind of got obsessed. I guess like growing up, we were always into like adventure and snowboarding and surfing, and then that kind of went into like, why don't we start doing some trips together and documenting it? And that kind of led us into our first project, which was Corner of the Earth in Iceland and Scotland and Ireland. And we just took like one of our best mates, Fraser, was the surfer. I was doing the stills and Spenny was video. And we kind of just went on a rogue adventure and ended up making a pretty cool like little feature film out of it.
Very cool. I dare say guys like Chris Burkhardt serve as forms of inspiration, right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the biggest forms of inspiration, definitely in that kind of adventure surf world. And then there's just there's so many other people that have inspired us and like set us on our own journey. And a lot of those people have actually become pretty good friends of ours. They've come from like idols and inspirations, and now we're talking to them on Instagram and emails, and they're just loving what we're doing. And it seems like a very supportive space. Like everyone's kind of trying to help each other, and it kind of inspires us to want to help other people as well chase these dreams.
Would you say, as is the case with a lot on social media these days, you get your different tiers, and you guys seem to be into that top tier of filmmakers, in a sense that you're using, I've looked at your inventory and the hardware that you're using, and you're using kick-ass gear to create and to capture these magical moments. And it's what you guys are making. It's not just like surf films. It's art, you know. And so would you say there's a very small community that are trying to portray surfing in a way that you are?
I think like the way we, like, I can only speak for myself, and I think you're the same, but it's like for us, it's very like, we're going on an adventure, and it's like kind of documenting whatever happens in front of us. And I think like Spenny's got such an eye for those like, you know, tight detail and what you probably describe as arty moments. But like when you're in those environments and those landscapes, it, like you're just in awe the whole time. And like, luckily, like Spenny brought like 3 red cameras on this last trip. So he's got like the most epic gear to shoot and document these places. So I think it's like in today's day and age, it's amazing to have this technology and then the ability to travel to places that kind of haven't been explored before. And I think that's what kind of sparked the inspo for the last trip. And what you were saying, like the guys before us, they were like, you know, growing up, like Chris, like you said, and people like Jimmy Chin and Renan, like they inspired us so much. And we were like, fuck it, let's go do these adventures, because like that's what fired the fuel in us, you know?
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, you guys have worked with some pretty big brands, Red Bull, Media House. My friend Peter Hamblin, who you know, who's directed Sweet Adventure and Let's Be Frank, has also worked quite extensively with Red Bull. I'm not going to ask you that. Who? I was going to ask who you enjoyed working with the most.
Throw people under the bus.
This guy's
Let's steer clear of that one. Okay, so let's talk about. You want to talk about some of your older films and what's led you to Kamchatka?
Nailed it.
Kamchatka. Yeah, I'm just thinking Kamchatka. Yeah. Kamchatka. Yeah. So do you want to chat about some of your older films before we move on to Kamchatka?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Iceland.
Yeah, talk about Iceland. That was
so in 2019, what's that, 5 years ago now? About that?
Far out, yeah. Yeah.
Pretty crazy. 4 or 5 years ago. I'd kind of been working in the kind of commercial film space for a few years, and I got a lot of camera gear together, and I had a little bit of a rep, and I was kind of not really feeling that inspired I was getting some pretty big jobs, and I was traveling around, and I was working with good crew, and I just it was good to kind of pay the bills and make some cash, but I just felt kind of the urge to do something bigger and something for ourselves. I was working for big brands, and they were telling me exactly what we want. And same with Guy. We were just working for the man, doing our thing, which is awesome in some ways, but there's always that desire to just chase your own dreams and to pursue something for yourself. So we came up with a plan. We're just like, let's just go to the gnarliest place that we can think of at the time and go and try and make a surf film. And that was Iceland. We'd seen other people had been there to surf. We definitely weren't the first people to do it, but we just wanted to chase the adventure. It looked like an incredibly cinematic place to go and film. Snow everywhere, northern lights. We asked a bunch of our surfer mates because, like, dialing it back, we grew up with this crew of friends, and then a lot of them actually went on to become professional surfers and pretty well-known surfers. So we kind of asked around everyone and just tried to pitch it and say, does anyone want to come to Iceland and go on a surf film? And yeah, pretty much no one wanted to come with us. We said, we're just going to go and bring all this camera gear. We're going to make something sick. And Fraser Dovell, who's a good friend of ours, and he was kind of like the Australian champion at the time. And he was pretty well-known, like, local surfer. And he was just like, yeah, let's do it. And we set off on this adventure, and then,
no, you're on a roll, dude.
Set off on this adventure, and we had no funding, no idea, Fraser got like a few wetsuits, but that was about it. And we just had a crack at making a feature film, and ended up getting crazy waves. Like, heaps of stuff went wrong, like cars broke down in the middle of the night, -20. What else?
I think it was just like we were just full punters, just like inspired by these people before us, and we were like, let's go and do it. And we kind of got there and had no idea really where the waves were, and like we got skunked a heap, but like we had a few amazing sessions too that just kind of made it worthwhile. And I think when you're in those landscapes, like, it's so hard to score waves, so when you do, like, you're just so buzzed, like, it's so epic. And then like being able to document in a place like that where you've got these right points with these giant snow-capped mountains in the background, like, we were just losing it a lot of the time. But it was like I'd kind of just started becoming like a photographer, like, for work. Spenny had done it for a while, but I think both of us still were like relatively new to filmmaking in that kind of doco style. So we learned a lot, we stuffed up a lot, but like, it was such an epic trip. Like, it was amazing.
And what year was that?
2019 we were there. Started 2019.
January.
Okay.
And then we got home and we looked at all the footage, and we're like, I think we've got something here. And then I edited for like 8 months, maybe, like the whole year. And then we had like a 45 minute film, I think. And it did seem to do really well. I think it got into like 30 festivals all around the world. It was actually in Wavescape over in South Africa, which was sick. And then just got played around the world, got kind of international distribution, won a heap of awards. And we basically used that project then to then this bigger beast that we're going to touch on next. But we used like what we pulled off with nothing. Like, if you give us something, this is what we can try and do. So basically we pitched our last film to these big brands and said, we're doing a new film. Are you interested in being involved? And that was kind of the selling point of a lot of the, So
you use that as a business card, as a as a part of your portfolio for this bigger vision of Kamchatka.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like it was a don't worry, we've all said it wrong for so long. But yeah, it was a really good case study to have, and like I think we'd finished touring the film, the first one, and then COVID hit, so we had about 2 years to come up with the next idea and the next project, and we'd been looking at world maps and trying to figure out where we wanted to go, and somewhere cold that hadn't really been explored before was kind of the main thing. And then Kamchatka was kind of like a place that we'd heard of before, but we didn't really think there were waves there. And then we kind of looked into the landscape of it, and it just looked insane. Like, you've got volcanoes to the coast, and like everything's just covered in snow in winter. And then we started looking at weather maps in the winter because no one had been there, and there was probably like 2 or 3 like really good swells over January and February. And we were like, okay, there could actually be potential here. So Spenny sent out like a message to a local surfer there, Anton, who we didn't really know, but we saw he had like a bit of a following on Instagram. And Spenny just said, hey, like I'm a filmmaker from Sydney, and we're looking at potentially coming over. Like, do you guys, get good waves in winter? And he was just like, yeah, like there's so much to explore here. And he was just like frothing that you'd send him a message. And yeah, from there it was kind of like,
yeah, he just said, he kind of said surf crews have come up there in summer and like gone and surf, but he just said there's no swells in summer. But then, yeah, as Guy was saying, we looked and it's like 4 meters swell with good winds. Like, and then kind of we'd all been traveling around the world filming surfing, and the boys were professional surfing, and like you can kind of look at a weather map and like gauge like there's got to be good waves. Like everything points that it's going to be kind of pumping. And yeah, we saw a trend, and it looked like there's 2 swells, so we spoke to Anton. Anton said the door's open, come and hang, and we'll try to find waves. And that pretty much started the whole trip and planning the whole thing.
So let's talk about Kamchatka. This is the new film that Spencer and Guy have got out at the film festivals at the moment. They're busy promoting it. Has it been properly released as yet? Was it early 24?
It's just touring at the moment, like a theatrical tour, and then we're going to do a few film festivals, a few select film festivals around, and then probably end of the year or start of 2024 it'll be online for released.
Fantastic. Okay, so in a world of a lot of surf films, I think the allure of finding the most exotic destinations is what makes this so cool. And the fact that you've gone to these lengths to this far-flung destination in is it the northwest or northeast?
Probably just
northeast, east coast of Russia.
Yeah.
Okay, east coast of Russia. Is it part of those islands?
It's part of Russia, like the main. It's not an island, but it's like
it's a peninsula that kind of runs off Far East Russia. It's
off the east coast of Russia.
But yeah, it is kind of just off that Aleutian chain. So you've kind of got Alaska here, Russia here, the Aleutians in the middle, and then it's kind of like a peninsula that runs off here. So it gets all those same storm swells, and in winter, like we said, it's pretty there's a lot of cyclones up there and a lot of water and swell moving around. So yeah, the goal was to try and find some of the magic up there.
Amazing. Okay, so let's unpack this. Fly into Vladivostok or where?
Yeah, so we had to fly to Moscow because we had a camera gear import and our visas we had to go through Moscow, like the main international city airport. And yeah, so we're going to dive straight into that? Or so I don't know if you know the backstory, but we landed in Abu Dhabi from Sydney to Abu Dhabi. And as we landed in Abu Dhabi, basically that was the same day that Russia had invaded Ukraine. So all the TV screens in the airport kind of said Russia has declared war, and there was like CNN footage of bombs going off and reporters ducking for cover. And yeah, we were one flight away from flying into Moscow when all that was kind of just going down. So Yeah, we kind of had the opportunity to pull the pin, and none of us really knew what to do. We were just sitting in a little Irish pub in Abu Dhabi and talking to each other, talking to family at home, talking to crew over in Russia, and we had like 2 hours until our connecting flight to decide if we're going to get on the plane and go to Moscow or come home. So that was
big inflection point.
Pretty wild situation.
Yeah, we'd spent like between Spenny and myself and Luke, our producer, it'd been about, like 8 months nearly, pretty much every day planning this trip, like getting visas sorted, seeing what the potential was to actually score waves there, pitching to companies, trying to get funding. So it was a lot of work to even get it off the ground. And then, so I think when that situation unfolded in front of us, 2 hours from boarding to Moscow, it was just like, fuck, like, what do we do here? Because we'd already dropped like quite a fair amount of money on camera gear and insurances, on plane tickets too. So it was just like, yeah, we spoke to like Spenny said, we had a team meeting, spoke to the crew on the ground there and spoke to kind of family and friends. And yeah, we had a few family members that were just like, don't go, like, it's just a surf trip, it's not worth it. But I think like for us, it was so much bigger than that. And in the end, we're really glad we went, but it was definitely like a hard day and a hard decision to make at the time, just because we didn't really know what was going on.
So what was it like flying into Russia under those circumstances? Like logistically, was there must have been super heightened security? Was it did you have to go through a lot more of a process to actually just get into the country?
Yeah. How much do you want us to dive into it? We can. Yeah, it's pretty. Like, we got onto the plane and the planes couldn't take off because all the airspace kind of got shut down. So but yeah, we made the call. Let's go for it and stick together, and got onto the plane. And the flight attendants kind of said we can't fly the plane because all the airspace over the
western airspace had been closed,
which kind of, I think our plane was going somewhere over Ukraine area, and they just cancelled all the flights. So they had to find a new flight route for our plane, and people were getting off the plane. They had the option to not fly, and people were getting off the plane, and the flight attendants kind of came and spoke to us and just said, like, why are you, like, are you guys Australian? Like, why are you going to Russia right now? And it didn't really give us much reassurance. But yeah, after like 4 hours, they found a new flight route, and we flew kind of under and up into.
Yeah, we went really far east.
And then up into Moscow, and yeah, our plane was escorted into Moscow by 2 fighter jets, like into the airport, which was pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And then we landed in Moscow, and then what happened?
That's pretty wild, eh? That's pretty wild right there. And I mean, you must have been thinking, okay, you're not flying into the war zone, but you're flying into a country that's just entered a conflict with another country, like very close to where you were landing.
Yeah, it was such a strange situation, because there was like, I guess, the ethics of what was the right thing to do, and we didn't realize like the severity of it all at the time. And I think like even on the plane, like the air host had told us that like 5 Russian jets had just got shot down. So we're just like, this is when we're about to take off. So we're just like, oh my God, like, what are we doing? So yeah, it's like, I guess it's like the fear of safety, and then the fear of like, is this the right decision to fly into a country that's just invaded another one? So there was a lot running through our head. And yeah, like at the time we didn't really know what to do, and we just kind of kept going until someone would say we couldn't go any further. But yeah, eventually we landed in Moscow, and we're all pretty like jacked up on adrenaline at this point. And like getting a visa to get into Russia is really hard. You've got to get invited by the Russian government.
Okay.
So that was about like a 4-month process for us. And initially we had a tourist visa, and then they got shut down because of COVID. And then we had a business visa, and they also got shut down. And then eventually we ended up on a humanitarian visa that we got invited by the Russian Sporting Federation to kind of go and document the Kamchatka region and their winter sporting events and winter surfing. So we got this incredible in, and luckily to get that. But then, yeah, when we got to the border, you can tell this part.
someone didn't send our like official invites to the customs immigration, and we basically didn't exist in any of their systems. So we went up to the desk and I scanned my passport, and then she looked at me and she's kind of like, what are you coming in for? And then she was just like, oh, I'm just going to hold your passport for 10 minutes, wait over there. Then Guy and Fraser did the same, did their passports, and then they all our passports got taken. And then Letty, who was the other surfer, had a British passport, and she asked him, do you have any other passports? So he scanned his British and he got let through. So you see him go through, the doors shut, and then all of us get sent into the naughty corner. And basically, yeah, they had all our passports and said wait 10 minutes. And then we just, didn't see anyone for like 3 hours, just sitting in this immigration room. And yeah, Letty was kind of talking to us on the phone, and he was already in Russia without us. And we just like had no idea what was going on. And
we were like going up to like, because there was like, we're in like a holding waiting area, and there was people around us that were like having visa issues, and like we saw a few people get deported, like, and we were just like, what the hell is going on? And then we try and go ask like an officer that was coming out of these like security doors, like, hey, can you help us? Like, and they just like be like, no English, and just like brush us.
Yeah.
And so we were just like, it was just like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. And then 3 hours later, this kind of big, just scary, typical like scary Russian
James Bond villain
immigration officer dude comes over. He says, Australians. I'm like, yeah. He's like, you three come in this room. It's just 4 walls, just chairs, table, just blank. And then we walked over to this desk, and it had like official deportation papers of the Russian Federation, Spencer Frost signed, stamped with my passport on top of it, and same for Guy and Fraser. And then basically we were just all getting sent home. So we he sat us down. He said, what are you doing in Russia? And we were like, oh, we're doing this film. We're going to Kamchatka, like trying to just honestly say what we were doing. We had invites. I had all the invites on my phone. And he's like, your names aren't in the system. He's like, you need to call your contact. So I called a lady called Victoria, who was kind of our like producer on the ground in Moscow. And she had the phone to the dude, and they were just kind of yelling back and forth. And he handed back the phone to me, and then she basically just said, Spenny, I'll handle it, and hung up on me. And then we got sent out. And then half an hour later, the same dude comes out with our passports and says, you can go through.
Okay.
Very stressful entry to a very stressful trip.
It was a big day.
Fighter jets, then a room out of the movies from the Matrix, and then sort of like
that's actually what it was like. That's what it was like in my head.
No, it was a big day.
Wow. A few more grey hairs, boys?
Oh, yeah.
I think Letty started balding after that.
Yeah.
You're like both only 21.
You just look real old.
Look very old. Wow. Okay, so I'm sure there's other few crazy things you can tell us, but let's go from the craziness of Moscow. But how did you get all the way from Moscow all the way up to the east? Because surely that's a long distance.
Yeah, it's about, I think it's a 9 or 10 hour domestic flight. So we spent the night in Moscow. I think we got like 6 hours sleep at like an airport hotel, and then went to the airport in the morning, flew pretty much, all over Russia, across Siberia, and then landed in Kamchatka. And I think we got there at about probably like 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was minus 16 outside. And it was incredible. Like flying in, you just got these volcanoes, and everything was just covered in snow. And Anton, the local surfer, met us at the airport. And we were all just like so cooked by this point, just rinsed. And then he was just like, hey, let's go surfing, like just frothing that we were there. And we were like, all right. He's like, the waves are good. And he said it had been like storming for about 3 weeks. So he hadn't had a chance to surf. And we flew in like a bluebird day, not a cloud in the sky, and perfect 2 to 3 foot beachy. So it was like, after that, travel, like 3 days of travel to get there, and then to walk into perfect beach break. It was incredible.
That was probably the best thing that could have happened to you, right? After that experience.
Yeah, it was. We really needed it. It was after all that shit show and the most stress and anxiety and everything we probably all felt in our lives, just to get there, and then to we kind of scored the best ways. We probably all the previous trips and all the footage we'd seen of that area, we pretty much got better waves on the first day that we got there. So it was like such a relief to be like, oh my God, we're actually kind of scoring straight away. And like boys were ripping, like met Anton, most beautiful place ever, snow all over the beach. And yeah, it really was a good start to the trip.
Yeah, I think our expectations for waves were so low that like going straight into that, we're all just like mind blown. And it did feel like pressure, like weight off your shoulders in a way, because you'd promised the sponsors a lot, not knowing whether you were going to get good waves at all. So that was like, whew, tick that one off first day. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
You needed a therapist, and Mother Nature delivered right there.
She delivered big time.
The best therapist you could wish for after an experience like that. Yeah, so what a whirlwind, eh? And flying out of Moscow, did you have jets next to you as well?
Yeah, flying out. We were there for 2 months, kind of after basically borders shut. Like,
yeah,
when we were coming in, we were still allowed to go. Like as Australians, we were still allowed to travel to Russia until that day when Russia invaded Ukraine, and then basically pretty much no tourists were allowed in. And then we stayed 2 months after that. So leaving Russia, we were all really scared. Like, were our visas still legit? Were we going to get pulled up? We had 16 hard drives. I had like 150 kilos of camera gear. And it was kind of a time when Russia didn't want stuff being documented. So we were definitely stressing. And yeah, we kind of worked up this story. Like, people said it's really hard to leave Russia. And we got there on the day that we had to leave and checked everything in and went up to the immigration desk, and the lady just like looked at my passport, stamped it, and said, "Go home." And that was it.
Wow. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Describe the place to us. I think as a surfer, we're all looking for the next most uncrowded, unsurfed destination. How would you compare Kamchatka to Iceland, would you say?
That's a good question. It just felt so raw and wild and untouched in Kamchatka. Like, I felt like Iceland, obviously it's become a huge tourist destination, but it's still wild. But I feel like Kamchatka really hasn't been explored before. So it felt like you were doing something that had never been done. Like where Anton lives, he's in the city. And he has probably an hour drive from the city is where he has a surf camp, like a little cabin on the beach. And during the summer, he teaches surf schools and stuff. So in winter, that's pretty quiet. It's not really operating, but we were lucky enough to have like a little base there. He had like what do you call it? Like a trailer cabin, pretty much 50 meters from the shoreline.
Beautiful.
Bunked in there. So we split the time up on the trip between, the cabin on the beach, and then we had a heliboarding lodge in the mountains. And from there, because you can't access a lot of the coastline by road or any other way, you have to use helicopter. So we got in touch with a heliboarding company up there, and the owner, Max, was really excited to be part of the project, and they'd never done like exploring for waves before. So yeah, we stayed there another part of the trip, and then other times it was camping. You get dropped in the helicopter to the coast, set up camp for a few days, and we'd have a skidoo and just be exploring the coastline. So yeah, the landscape was pretty much like nothing I'd ever seen before. Like Iceland on steroids in a way, like mountains right to the coast, everything covered in snow. And then there's like 30 active volcanoes still on the peninsula. So it's like mind blowing. You can't like not be in awe there, especially when you're in the water shooting or the boys surfing and you look in and it's just like a volcano, a few hundred meters from the shoreline. It's insane.
Wow. Paints a beautiful picture. And I think that's exactly what the viewers need as a hook to want to actually watch this film. How cold are we talking?
Yeah, it kind of ranged between like -10 and -20. We had some, really cold days. And I guess like sometimes the wind up there just got like, it's like 100-kilometer wind. So like that with the icy temperatures kind of makes it so much more kind of heightened. And just colder in general and more miserable, basically. But water's 1
1
degree,
or 2 degrees.
Pretty much as cold as salt water, surfing water gets. Cold as Iceland, cold as anywhere we kind of been. And we thankfully had really good wetsuits from a company called Project Blank out of Australia. We got like kind of custom 6'5" wetsuits, and we actually got to work with them through like the design process and getting samples and testing them in ice baths. And yeah, we kind of came away with a really good design, and it kept us warm for most of the trip. Me and Guy had a wetsuit, and then we wear like a 2 mil vest on top for like on our top, and then we had these like stick-on heat packs that you put on your kidneys to keep you a little bit warmer. You need everything to get up there.
Yeah, you got to keep everything operative, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Anton and this dude that you who hosted you in Kamchatka. I dare say he's one of few dudes that actually live and surf there. What's his vibe? What's his history? Are there lots of surfers there?
Yeah, so Anton is this guy that I don't even know where we saw him, just kind of on Instagram, and I just kind of started looking up Kamchatka and Kamchatka surfing, and his name just seemed to pop up, and I reached out on Instagram and just asked the question like, hey, like, is there waves up there, and has anyone been up there to surf in winter? And straight away he was on. We got on a Zoom call with him, and like you could tell he was just such a funny guy, and like love the boys, like already cracking jokes straight away, like broken English. And he kind of offered to host us and to kind of be our on the ground surf guide up there. And he was just, such a character. As I said, we lived with him for 2 months, and we ended up just being like best mates with him, and we still chat to him kind of most days. Yeah.
Amazing. Guy, what were you saying earlier about him and his snowboarding history and that?
Yeah, so Anton, like Spenny said, he was the most amazing dude. And I think like before we went on this trip, we had like kind of a stereotypical view of what we thought, the Russian people would be like. And, meeting him and his crew was just like the complete opposite. Like they were just so friendly, like always cracking jokes, super welcoming. And obviously with the situation going on, like at the time, it was quite daunting for us being there, and they just made us feel super safe and comfortable. And his story, like how he learned to surf, is just incredible. Him and his mates grew up snowboarding, and I think when he was about 14, he saw the film In God's Hands, like a Hollywood surf film with like Shane Dorian, like the classic OG. And he said like from the moment he saw that, he just became like obsessed with this idea of becoming a surfer. And I think it was when he was like 23, 10 years later, he got his hands on a surfboard, and everyone thought he was crazy. He went down to the local beach, and I think he found like a 7 mil diving wetsuit, and he went surfing by himself and caught a wave just holding the rails of the board in the whitewash. And he just said from that moment he was completely hooked. And he was telling us that he was trying to get his friends involved, and everyone just thought he was crazy. Like surfing like in a place like that when it's like -10, -20, and no one's ever seen it before. It's like so alien. Like it felt like he'd be going to another planet in a way. And he said like just was so passionate, and he knew it was like his purpose in life. And like, because he's such a jokester, when you hear him kind of talk about this like on an emotional level, it's so beautiful to hear, because you can just tell, it means so much to him. And from there, he's pretty much built a surf school. He's got people traveling from all over Russia and even the world to come to his surf camp now, and it's what he's doing for a living. And it's amazing. Like he's built like a full surf community in the depths and coldest part of Russia. And like, I think for him having us there and hosting us, it was so special, because he's always wanted to come to Australia to surf. So to have like 4 Aussie guys come and visit him, he was just so pumped.
Amazing. So I dare say he surfed that break by himself for years, right?
Yeah. So in winter, like the peninsula is like 1,300 kilometers long. So it's basically like, I don't know what the distance is in relation to where you guys are from, but that's a very long coastline where there's only one road you can actually drive to the beach. And that's here like in winter, and he has made his surf camp on that beach. So it's just kind of like a standard beach break, kind of get some fun peaks, little rip bowls. And he's just thrived surfing that. And he kind of knew that how much potential that coastline had if you had the time to explore it, and then if you had the resources like the money and the helicopters. So us coming up there and bringing that to the table and having a bit of funding and being able to use the helicopters to look for waves, that he was so excited to be a part of that, because he didn't get that opportunity very much, and being kind of the surfer up there, he wanted to be a part of any surf exploration that was happening. And that kind of led us to going on these crazy missions and booking the helicopters.
Yeah, it's I've spent time in the Arctic myself in northern Norway, and it's crazy how in these coldest places of this planet we find the warmest people, and the warmest hearts, and the culture and that coming together around those fires in their cabins and eating reindeer and talking about sort of deep conversations long into the night. We've kind of lost a lot of that in the Western world, right? Not that their world isn't Western per se, but they've got that strong sort of cultural bond, and their way of society is because it's so isolated and so remote. Time almost slows down, I find, when you in those remote places, and I just found people talk a lot more to each other. There's a lot of talking and a lot of, meaningful talk, not sort of shallow stuff and, the stuff that we sometimes get caught up with. I don't know if you felt that way whilst you were there, but
yeah, we definitely had some like campfire moments, or like just Anton's cabin. We'd just be sitting there having like teas or coffees, and like we'd all just be chatting and like hanging. When we did have the downtime, didn't feel like we had heaps of downtime, but when we got time to just chill, we definitely throwing down with everyone. And
I think like you were saying, like those isolated places, they don't get to share like their world with people a lot. And like I think for Anton, like he was so excited that we were there, and like for us to be exploring his backyard, and he gets to go surfing with Letty and Fraser. It was so special, and like you could tell it meant so much to him. And yeah, you're right. I feel a lot of the time, like if people come to Sydney and the surf's crowded, like we're a lot more like, or same at J Bay, I don't know what it's like there, but it's like people become a lot more closed off just because it's busy. Whereas places like that, they just want to share and froth, which is, it's so nice to be on the receiving end of that because you feel so welcome.
And so what can we expect to see in the film? Are there any slabs out there, reef, beach breaks only? What can we expect without giving away too much?
We were there, and we were kind of assessing the weather maps and the swell maps, and we were talking to Anton and talking to Max, the heliboarding guide, and basically, one of those swells that we foresee, like we remember we were looking back on the charts, and we saw there's like 2 big swells a month, if that, or 2 big swells in winter, and we just saw this one big purple blob kind of on the swell charts kind of coming up to Kamchatka, and I don't know, it looked kind of too good to be true, and it just looked massive and wild, and there was this big storm, but then on the tail end of that, it was like offshore winds and still like 4 meters. So we spoke to Anton, and he kind of said for his surf knowledge, he didn't know anywhere on the coastline that would hold a swell that big. And he kind of told us not to go and explore. He thought it would just be a write-off and too big. And Max was the same. He kind of thought, he didn't really know surfing, but he kind of just said it just looked big and wild. And I don't know. We just kind of, I don't know. We were there, and we had the funding, and we just decided to go for it. So we booked these helicopter. It's these massive Mi-8 helicopters. They're like a flying school bus, and loaded absolutely everything into it. And we had the door off on the side, and the boys were kind of strapped in these harnesses, and basically, just took off down the coast. And on this day of this massive swell, and we're looking out down on the coastline, and we just basically spotted this crazy left slab on our on the trip in the helicopter, and Fraser saw it, and kind of we were all yelling, and it just kind of took us all by surprise. It looked like, I don't know, looked like Indonesia, or
it was like a mix of like Chopu and Greenbush, and like something that we never thought we'd ever find. Like from the sky,
like a G-land.
Yeah, but just way gnarlier.
And cold.
And cold.
Far out to sea as well, like a slab, like a rock platform out to sea, and just exploding, just coming in on. And it would have been like, I don't know, we couldn't tell how big it was, but you could tell like the way how slow the waves were moving. It looked like, I don't know, 8 to 10 foot, maybe, like gnarly. And basically Fraser's yelling, and we're all yelling, and we got the helicopter. The pilots can kind of land the helicopter wherever they want up there. It's just basically free game, and landed the helicopter on the beach, and I got my drone out and flew my drone out to have a quick look, and it was a kilometer out to sea from where we landed the helicopter, and it was just yeah, just basically just barreling onto this reef and spinning. And yeah, that was basically the boys didn't really think. They were just like, let's do it. And made the call and got their wetties on and paddled out to sea. And yeah, that was kind of the moment of the whole trip that really, like, I don't know, I think that was probably the most special moment of the whole trip, just finding, after putting so much into this and so much drama getting there and all the planning and all the preparation to land the helicopter and see that wave. It was yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Man, for us to see it, guys. That sounds phenomenal. And kind of like got all these pictures in my head of this, and the water, like beautiful blue, I can imagine, eh?
Dark, angry, black, just scary, white snow all over the cliffs behind it. Yeah, it was pretty wild. I think the picture in your head might be a bit different than.
Well, I'm picturing sort of like shallower blue water, like that Icelandic color water.
Yeah, it was wild. Yeah, basically then the boys had a crack and.
Yeah, we had so I, Letty, Fraser, myself, and Anton. I was shooting water. So I took like a 10-foot longboard out there and was gonna sit in the channel and shoot the boys. And Anton just wanted to be a part. He wasn't gonna surf. It was, way too gnarly for him. He'd never even seen waves like this before. But we all went out, and Fraser got a pretty insane first one, like straight off the bat. Like, it was pretty wild to beat a wave that had never been surfed before, a kilometer out to sea when it's -10 and 1 degree water, and just like watching the boys try and figure it out. And just being that cold, like, you probably, most of the time the boys are surfing for like an hour and a half. So not too long, because you just freeze pretty much, start getting hypothermia. So it was about a 20 to 25 minute paddle out. So we knew we kind of had a limited time out there for the boys to get waves. And yeah, they did a pretty good job, considering like they got absolutely slammed a few times. But yeah, Fraser's first wave was pretty amazing. And then Letty also got a pretty sick tube, just like short and punchy, but they both came out, and it was just special to be a part of that. And then I got this big set came, and I got caught up shooting on the inside and just got absolutely slammed, which I'm sure you'll enjoy in the film. But yeah, it was a chaotic day. Yeah, but you'll see more of it once you get to see the film proper.
It must have been awesome for Anton to witness that with you as well, and to know that he'd been a part of this, and you guys had unlocked a new surf destination that he didn't even realize would break at that size, right?
Yeah, I think he was just mind blown, because he'd just been surfing a beach break for his whole life basically, and just see like a 8-foot top to bottom slab, and him being out there in the water watching the boys go for it, like, must have just opened this new world of what's possible for surfing for him. And yeah, he was couldn't believe it. He was very excited.
Well, we're going to put all the links down below to Spencer Frost Films. You're going to be able to go and read up and check the back catalog of all the films that you guys have worked on, a little bit more of your history. Yeah, anything else, dudes?
No, thanks so much for having us on.
Yeah,
thank you, Spencer. Yeah. Thank you, Guy. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on Shredding the Gnar. It's always good to speak to filmmakers firsthand and get sort of the behind the scenes stuff, because I think we can watch a film, but it makes it so much more interesting, and it resonates when we understand all the trials and tribulations that it took for you to actually get there. And so thanks for opening up and being as vulnerable about your whole journey as what you have.
Dude, our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. It's nice to be able to share, the backstory, because yeah, we could talk for hours about
what happened. But yeah, it's a sneak peek.
We'll schedule that for the next one, bro, in like a few months' time.
Thanks so much for having us on. We really appreciate it.
No worries, guys. Yeah, we there we go, just in time. Have you heard of load shedding in South Africa?
Oh, power?
Yeah, power goes off for sometimes like 9 hours a day.
Wow.
So that was my UPS kicking in. So at least my office keeps going, and the Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's called load shedding. That's why all the lights went off.